Hello, this is Zachary Griggs. Today, what I'm going to do is take you through Data Blend and the specific use case of leveraging SFTP or flat files out of a source system and how you would be able to get that in an automated fashion into another system, let's say Sage Intacct in this example. So a specific use case to keep in mind might be you have an HRIS or a payroll system, and you have your biweekly or bi-monthly payroll. You need to take that data and generate a journal entry within your accounting system, Sage Intacct. You need to create that, and you don't want to go through a bunch of Excel gymnastics to do it. So how do we do that in an automated fashion, leveraging a tool like Data Blend? So on my screen, what I have is Data Blend. This is your home dashboard once you log in. It's a cloud-based integration tool. And once you log in, you're going to see a few different things on the screen. In the upper left, you have this favorite section, and there's a lot of these what we call workflows. A workflow is exactly the scenario I explained, moving that file into a payroll entry within Sage Intacct. You can have any number of those built out in the integration, and you can manage them all in one place. In my demo, I have over a dozen different use cases and different workflows already configured. So for instance, if I came in here and I wanted to run my Salesforce to Intacct one, I can click the run button. When I do, it kicks off that integration and it runs it within Data Blend. I don't need to come in here and do that manually. I can run it ad hoc if I'm, let's say, in the middle of close or I'm pulling together some financials and I want the latest and greatest. I might come in here and kick it off manually, but if not, I can just put it on a schedule and then it's going to run on that schedule. That can be at whatever frequency makes sense for you. Once a day, once an hour, once every 30 minutes, completely up to you how often you want that to kick off. The last thing that you're going to see on your dashboard once you come into Data Blend is this credential section. Every one of these systems, you can see I have quite a few, some popular names you might see in the space, but each of these you need to connect to in some way through some type of user or an API key. There's some initial connection into that system that needs to be established. So for today, I'm going to load my files through this option. So when I test it, you'll see it's going to have that green dot. And then I'm also going to push the actual entry into Sage Intacct down here. And you can also see it has a green dot, which means that I have a successful connection to both of those systems. I should never lose connection to them. So this is just giving you a visual that if you ever see this black dot or red dot, just like this for Blackline, then you'll know, okay, maybe my user expired. Maybe somebody changed the password. I need to go in there and just update my password. But the concept with this dashboard within Data Blend is it gives you a single hub to manage all of your different integrations. And you can see it's finishing up now my customer workflow. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to show you if you had that just raw file, raw data coming out of the source system. Let's say you're working with ADP, Paylocity, Paycom, Paychex, any popular payroll HRIS system, and you can just run a report to get that data. What does it look like to get that into a journal entry within Sage Intacct? So the way that we do that is through what's called an SFTP. I use Bitfize. You can use FileZilla, any popular tool that's out there. There's a lot of free options, but Data Blend provides you with the SFTP, and you just simply download whichever your preferred client is. In this case, this is what Bitfize looks like. If you're not familiar with SFTP, think of it like a file explorer on your computer. So you'll see down here, I have my file explorer. This is my just my file explorer for Windows. It's the same concept where I can just have a bunch of folders and files, but it's connected. It's a window into Data Blend. It's my way of handing off a local file that I might have on my desktop and putting that into this tunnel that's going to send it to Data Blend, which will then transform it and then push that data into Sage Intacct as a journal entry. So in here on the right, these are my local files. They can come from anywhere. This is just my computer. So in this case, I have an example. Let's say this file here. And if I open this, you're going to see it looks nothing like, if you're familiar with Sage Intacct, it looks nothing like the import template. And in this case, it's about 3,000 rows of data, tons of columns, lots of formatting and issues that need to get cleaned up in order for this to generate some type of journal entry. In this case, it's not payroll related. It's more quote to cash, revenue associated content, but same concept is going to push it into a journal entry within Sage Intacct. But I don't need to do a bunch of Excel gymnastics. I can just simply get this report from the source system, and I'm going to then send it into Sage Intacct. Another example of a file is it can really look like anything that comes out of the source for the most part, we can work with. It might look something like this. It could have all your payroll data. You can see different dates, a description, different account it's going to go to. This is a really simplistic payroll example, but it could really, you can see very distinct file types. But if I close these out and I go back to where I was before, so I'm going to go back over here and open up my dashboard just so you can see this history section. Then I'm going to open up the Bitwise window. So this is where the file needs to go in order for it to get into Sage Intacct. And I'm going to use my file explorer, but I could drag it from my desktop if I wanted to. So once I take this, I can take my transaction file and I'm just dragging it over into the SFTP. Once I do that, you'll notice in the background here, and I intentionally set it up this way so you can see that it kicks off the workflow. And what it's doing now is it recognized I took a new file and I put it into the SFTP, and then DataBlend sees that, and it's going to start transforming those 3,000 rows of data to generate a journal entry within my Sage Intacct system that I have open over here. Now I can also take my payroll file and I can drop that over here as well. And once I do that, it's going to then kick off another workflow. So I've now dropped two very different types of data at the same time into the SFTP, and you'll see that the system recognized this was my payroll entry. These are my transactions. Maybe they're related to some type of revenue or sales or some point of sale system. Now, all that data is going to flow through, get transformed. DataBlend is applying its transformations to the content. The payroll entry is probably going to finish first because it was only about 10 rows of data, whereas this one down here at 3,000 might take a couple minutes to finish up. But once it's done, what it's going to do is generate that entry on the Sage Intacct side. So once it gets to complete on either one of those, I'm going to hop over into the Sage Intacct demo just to show you what it looks like once it posts the final product. And in the interim, I'm going to go into my journal entries. In this case, it's going to be my payroll journal. So I'll just stay right here for a second. And it looks like that finished up as well as my transactions as well. So if I come in here and refresh, here's my entry. And you can see there it balances based on what was in the file. Everything passes through. If I wanted to do some type of lookup on the data, maybe I have different accounts. My Paycom employee code doesn't align with my Intacct employee code. So what you could do in that case is on the SFTP, if I come over here, you can open this up and then have a mapping file. And this is just standard Excel that can live on the SFTP. What it'll allow you to do is say that essentially A equals B. So this might be my Paycom ID, this is my Intacct ID, and this is how I want it to map when it pushes over. And this is a really simplistic model. So you see the source ID, Sage Intacct ID, you can put in some notes, multiple columns. We're just in Excel at this point, but you're able to update this. You can also, if you wanted to, have different allocations broken out in this area so that when it posts the entry, it's going through that before it hits Sage Intacct. And like I said, on the SFTP side, it's very similar to the file explorer. So you're simply moving what your source data is. You should never even need to open it. You're just going to download it from whatever system you're working with, drop it into this location, and then DataBlend, the integration, is going to do the rest. And in the implementation process, we'll flesh out what are the transformations, where do you want the data to go? Are you going to generate an AP bill? You're going to create a journal entry? Do you want to create employee records? You can have it do more than one thing in that integration. So you can make the integration really sophisticated and get to a point that you're just taking that raw data from the source, dropping it in this one spot, and then DataBlend does the rest. It's a set and forget type of process. But overall, SFTP and this type of connection is our most popular because it's so flexible. Just about every financial system that you work with is going to give you the opportunity to extract the data, the raw data, and we eliminate all those Excel gymnastics, the reformatting, playing around with the upload templates that always have some quirky issue that you need to reformat a certain field or certain value. DataBlend does all that. So it's really straightforward, really easy. The whole process, as you saw, once I drop it, might take 15 seconds to do, and you can drop those files as many times as you'd like, and it continuously keep making those transactions for you. And so very powerful, very flexible, and definitely our most popular tool. All right, thanks everyone.